What what up? What up? It's your boy Goober Studios with another episode 8 on the Journey Vlog. Coffee, not a coffee, talking about podcast, talking about anything. Today's episode 9. Yes, it is. Today is episode 9. And on today's magical Sunday morning, actually it's afternoon. Uh it's a really hot day today. And I just wanted to start off the day. I just woke up a few hours ago and just I already did a bit of work and I got some new ideas I wanted to share. Now, we're already discussed all of my meaningful business ventures that I've started online. I don't like to use the word business ventures because they were just lucrative hustles that I thought of by scouring the internet and utilizing the things that I already knew and how to monetize what I was already good at. So I didn't have to start from scratch. I just needed to create something based off a foundation of what I was already doing. So it's capitalizing on what I already know. And on today's episode of my fifth online venture, I'm going to be talking about Goober Studios. Now, I already told you from 2017 till today what we've done. And the thing is about Goober Studios it's an interesting thing because I started this idea back in 2017 before I did e-commerce, before I even knew what a Facebook ad was. But I remember the first what really got me into Facebook ads was I was watching this video by Owen Cook from Real Social Dynamics, and he was talking about how one of his friends was a badass, and he's talking about Seth, and he's like, man, Seth is a badass. Seth made $100,000 off a Facebook ad in 1 month, and I was like, what? People can make money from Facebook ads? How do you even do that? I thought it was like for every click you get money, but it's not the case. But that's what led me to search how to make money off Facebook ads, and then later it turns out that when you have a Facebook ad, all it does is just drive attention towards your product page, your service, your channel, whatever. And the only way to make money is to get people from Facebook onto your website or whatever to perform the transaction. It's not that Facebook pays you. It's just an ad to bring traffic. Now, anyways, it was 2017. I was in my last semester in college, and I remember that was the first time where during that 2016, 2017, I was highly contemplating how can I make as much money as I can without having to get a job because I was studying architecture and I enjoyed it, but I really didn't like the industry. I didn't like the architecture industry. I had done my internship, as I told you, when I was making money on Skype. I thought that the industry was kind of lame. I thought it was very corporate. Everything just felt kind of dead because in school they're teaching all this philosophy and being so deep, man. And then you go out in the real world and they're just like, here, just copy paste this template, and then you know, the, we'll sell it. And I don't know, I just didn't like it. It felt like the magic was dead, or maybe I worked with the wrong company. But basically, I just did not like how uh, the industry, the mindset was. They treated newcomers like crap. They really like, how do you say this? I mean, any architect, any graduate architect is talented. Okay, if you graduate from architecture school, you're talented. You can think, you can construct abstract ideas and bring them into like concrete form. You can handle high pressure, long hours of work, no sleep, uh, crazy deadlines. So when you come out, you're like chiseled. Okay, and you go out in the industry and they pay you the same amount that a guy in a retail store would get. So it's like, what the hell is the point in going, slaving for 4 years for a degree that's like one of the hardest degrees. It's up to par with medicine, and you go out and you get paid the same as a retailer, like a guy who sits there and just like uh, tells you whether you want to buy a shirt. It's crazy. So I was like, okay, I am not doing that. And the only people who made money were people who spent years working in a firm, got leveled up, or became a boss, or went into property development instead of sticking to architecture, or they would go work with the contractor. Basically, I didn't like what was going on. I was like, I need to make money. What can I do? And I was pushed into a corner, and I'll get into detail to this for another story. I just want to keep things concrete so I don't like flabbergast you everywhere. I'm trying to get better at storytelling. So I remember sitting down at my campus coffee shop, and I was like, okay, I need to start some kind of business, and but I don't know what I should do. And at the time, I was listening to a lot of Gary Vaynerchuk, and Gary Vaynerchuk kept saying, artists can't sell. They can make art, but they can't sell. You want to make money? Teach artists how to sell. And I was like, blew my mind. I was like, hey, you know what? Why don't we do something about that? Why? Because by 2017, I'd already um, been experienced with some sales. I had started learning about drop shipping. Uh, no, even I think before that. Now my memory is a little muddled, but I don't believe I'd had known about Facebook ads at the time, but I knew that I could sell. Okay, that's the main thing. I knew I could sell. I knew I could design because I was already graduating, and I knew how to make websites, right? So I kept contemplating, like, what can I use of what I already know? What do I know best? What do I like? What am I already good at? So I kept thinking, like, okay, I'm good at sales. What do I already know? I know architecture. I know design. Like architects are professional designers. We know graphic design. We know like composition. We know abstract design, sketching, painting, sculpting. So many things. So many things. It's not just buildings and physics. No, we don't even. I don't even know physics. Okay, my math sucks, but I can design you a building. Anyways, um, I wrote those things down, listed them down. What do I or what am I already good at? Design. What do I already like? I like psychology and sales. And what am I already good at? Okay. So I combined those three things of sales, design, and let's just call it communication for lack of a better word. And I wanted to put them under one roof. So I was like, it's perfect. I'm going to start a business, a service business where I teach artists how to sell. And it's not a coaching or a mentorship, none of that. I wasn't even thinking like that. I just wanted to approach artists. And because I saw a disconnect between the way designers and artists make their product and the way they communicate it to sell it. So they're really talented people. When it comes to selling their product, they just can't do it. Why? Wrong mindset. I have a friend. He was drawing some really sick art, and it looks cool. And I was like, "Hey, man, you should sell this." It was a sketch, okay? And he was like, "Yeah, maybe." I was like, "Yeah, man, I'd like $300. And he's like, "What? No way, man. No one would buy this for 300." I'm like, "Why not? It looks epic." And he's like, "Nah, man. This only took me. I'd sell this for like $60. It only took me like 40 minutes." And then I was like, "Well, it took you 40 minutes to do, but it took you 5 years to be able to do it in 40 minutes. Okay, something like that would take me like, days to create." So they all were already labeling the price of their service based on how much time it took them to make, which is totally backwards. Because if you, okay, let's just say, take away the art. Let's say you're a consultant, you're a master professional consultant, and you go up to like Pepsi, and you're like, "Hey, Pepsi, I noticed there's some improvement you can make to your marketing. Why don't you hire me as a consultant?" And they're like, "Okay." So he comes in and he spends 1 hour looking at their model and just like tweak, 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 and then Pepsi makes like 100% more return on their marketing. Now, did that 1 hour mean that he should be underpaid? Just like, "Hey, man, you only spent 1 hour, so we're just gonna pay you $100," whereas he made them millions. See where I'm going? How much time you put into something does not contribute the value of that service. It's not about the time, it's the value of the service. Now, if I'm selling you money, let's say you have an iPhone, you created the iPhone, but you just can't get it to sell. Okay. Now I come in and I make your sales boom. Okay. Basically, I tell you, hey, give me $1,000. I'm going to give you 5,000 back. What am I selling you? Initially, I'm selling you money. If you can sell somebody money, like really think about that. If for every dime you spend on me, I make you 10x return, that who's gonna say no to you? Okay, you can charge high prices for that because they're going to make that money. Like let's say my fee is $1,000. Okay, or let's say my fee is $5,000 to write you a landing page, but that landing page will make you 1 million. So that 5,000 is definitely, even if it takes me a day, you're gonna give me that 5,000. I'm selling you money. So I noticed there was a disconnect between how artists made their thing and how they sold it. They thought it was like based on how much time you spend, and that money and time must be correlated. No, never, ever, 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 ever. What you make has no direct connection to how much time you spend on it in order to price it. What you price something is based on the size of the problem that you're solving. So the bigger problem you can solve, the more money you can make. If you can solve a problem that 1 billion people have, you will become a billionaire, aka Facebook, aka Uber, Grab. What do these things do? Amazon. They solve problems that billions of people have. Okay, and now they're almost trillionaires. Apple is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, already a trillionaire. So I didn't have this knowledge at the time, but I just knew that artists just didn't know how to sell their stuff, whereas I could, because when I was in architecture school, the only thing that set me apart was my presentation. My design was okay. I was an okay designer. I wasn't bad. In the beginning, I was bad, but come towards the middle, I got better, and eventually, I became standard. I was like a B student. It was really hard, and the competition was fierce. Like there were some really talented students in there. Um, but why I stood out was my ability to present. And what I mean by that is that whenever I made a design, whenever I presented my project, at the back of my head, I knew exactly why I did everything. When a lecturer would ask me something about my design, because see, the thing is with design, it can't be abstract. It has to be, it can't be, I mean, sorry, not abstract, it can't be arbitrary. Nothing can come out of nowhere. You can't just say, I made the ceiling 6 feet high because I like high ceilings. No, there had to be a justification for every tiny thing you did, because people are going to pay money to build those things. So when it comes to design, design is a problem solving thing. When you, whatever you design, it has to be a response to a problem. So your design is a solution to an existing problem. That's how designers think. So with that in mind, nothing can be arbitrary. It's not like abstract art where you just feel and do. It's more, this is like a small area. How can I design a building that fits within the construct of this really refined uh, claustrophobic space? So maybe you raise the ceilings, right, to make it feel more airy. Maybe you add bigger windows to add in more light. Maybe you paint the walls white so that if it appears bigger than it actually is, you install a mirror to reflect and make the small space feel expansive. That's what the difference between a designer and an artist is. So I noticed that a lot of my peer mates couldn't justify their actions. They were great designers. They made awesome designs, but when they were asked the question, they just couldn't justify it. They couldn't sell, and they couldn't storytell. Half of architecture presentations is being able to tell a story. It's knowing how to describe your project from concept all the way down to the technical detail or completion. If you couldn't do that, they would think you cheated, or they would think that it came out of nowhere. And what architect lecturers care most about is your thought process more than the end product. If they know you can think properly, they'll pass you. And that's what I was good at. I was able to take a concept and storytell it back to where it came from. And for some reason, that was just very easy for me. It was like all I did was state the challenge, like, oh, okay, when I started this project, this was my challenge, and then I broke it down like this was the response to my challenge, and then this is why I came up with this concept because it elaborates on so many things, etc., etc. Start from here. I take them with me. I take them on a journey. So that's what inspired this idea. Plus, what Gary Vee said, and then it just really just blew my mind. Like, you know what? I guess this is he validated my idea. I would say, or rather, I got it from him, but because he said it, it compounded into all what I already knew, and he just solidified. He was like the missing piece. So I sat down at that coffee shop. I wrote all these things down, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna start this teaching. Again, I didn't want to coach. I just meant I'm just going to solve this problem of artists can't sell. Either I'm going to sell their art for them, or I'm going to create a platform or something. Okay, shout out to number one viewer over here, love you, man. Thank you for tuning in. And so, how the name Goober Studios literally came from lack of a better name. I couldn't think of anything better, so I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna just call it this, and I just stuck with it for the past 3 years. So what I did was, now again at this time I didn't know Facebook ads. I didn't know anything. This was in 2017. I made a website. So as I was about to graduate, I was like, okay, I need a special portfolio. I need to stand out from the rest. So I made a website on Wix, called it Goober Studios. You know, I did the whole thing, etc., etc. Like, you know, helping artists how to sell, good storytelling, good art, shit, man, so many things. And I started sending out my link to certain artists that I knew. They didn't like it, honestly. Like, so, again, I was asking the wrong people. I wasn't asking them for business. I was like, hey man, what do you think of this website? What do you think of this business? And they gave me the wrong feedback, or rather, it was just feedback. I was just asking the wrong people. What they told me was like, oh, okay, look, this was their comment. Looks good. I mean, seems nice, but if you're gonna sell a service, the website needs to look better because you're selling a service, so it needs to look more professional. So their comment was the website look. So as you can see, like as a creative, they were only looking at the aesthetic, versus me, who came from the grungy forums of, you know, gaming mods and scammers, like, uh, who saw ugly forums but then made thousands of dollars. I knew that when it came to making money online, that aesthetic does matter, but it's not the ultimate factor. So I was like, okay, never mind. And then fast forward a few months, that's when I started Culture House. I got caught up with all the e-commerce stuff. Totally forgot about Goober Studios. It just became at the back of my mind. I wasn't planning on getting a job, right? That's not. It's not. And I was thinking of Goober Studios as almost like a thing that would need a lot of money to start. I just didn't know how to start an actual business, or what am I even gonna do with this idea? How am I gonna implement it? How am I gonna sell for people? How am I gonna? I was thinking making an app. That was my first idea, but I was like, I don't have money for that. I don't know how to code. I don't even know where to start. So fast forward, end of 2017, after I moved back here, and I realized that I need a job because my e-commerce wasn't working out. So I, coffee. Mm, 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 mm. So then I was like, okay, I need a job. I was broke, and I was like, I need a job, but I don't want just to take whatever's there. So I went on the internet and I just scoured for all the companies. I basically wanted to go into property development. I wanted to become a property developer because I was an architecture graduate and I had sales skills. So property development is creating buildings and then selling them. So I thought, you know, maybe they need an architectural salesman. So I was like, okay, let's start there. And I went and I applied. So I sent out my email to over 100 companies, literally over 100 developer companies within the country, one of the biggest, and zero got back to me. Zero responded, except one company did, and they only wanted to had they had a marketing position, but then they didn't give it to me. Um, so I was like, okay, well, there goes my first idea. I was like, I don't want to work for an architecture firm. Like, no way, man. That shit is like crazy. And also, like, I knew I didn't stand a chance. I knew that with the amount of me as a foreigner trying to get a job and the amount of locals who are already probably like anyone who's going to be an architecture firm is probably has better work than I do. And they're going to hire a local over a foreigner because it's not easy by the government. Actually, it's not the employer's fault to hire foreigners. So I knew that I wouldn't be, a different candidate if I just applied to an architecture firm. Then it hit me. I was like, why not? Then no, it actually started to sink in. Like maybe the reason those developer firms didn't contact me back was because they already had salesmen. They didn't need designers, or so like they were well off. But maybe it's the design companies that need someone like me, because initially, who am I helping? Designers and artists, not not the salesmen. The salesmen don't need my help. Salesmen are probably already better off without me. I'll probably confuse them. They don't get the art. By the way, here's a funny thing: sales and business people have terrible looking stuff, but have great sales, whereas designers have amazing looking stuff but terrible sales. Funny. So I wanted to be the segue, and so here's what I did: I improved my website. And at this point, I already knew how to build brands online. I had spent a lot of time marketing Facebook ads through e commerce. So my Goober Studios idea became a little more refined. And what I decided to do is to call it a digital creative agency. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to start an agency, a social media agency, where I go to design firms and artist firms or production firms or film, anyone in the creative industry, and I'll set them up with the proper online infrastructure to grow their online presence and to use Facebook ads to actually get customers, because that's something I knew how to do and I knew that they couldn't. So I started listing up architecture firms, interior design firms, and from there I noticed that they had terrible websites in terms of a marketing standpoint. Like work wise, it was great. Their Facebook pages were very, very low activity. Their Instagram pages almost didn't exist. I know, right? Designers, everything visual, don't have an Instagram page. And I was like, oh my God, I think I've hit the jackpot. So I start sending out an email along with a portfolio of my work. And I told them that, like, I can contribute to your growth and profit. I'm a designer. I know online sales, da 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 da. I applied to 50 companies. Five got back to me compared to one out of 100. Now it's five out of 50. So um, I went for interviews and eventually, so here's what happened. Here's what made this different from a normal job. I came in selling an idea. I didn't come in like, hey, please hire me. I came in, I emailed them offering a problem to us, a solution to a problem. And I even said architectural entrepreneur. So I didn't even come in as like, hey, I'm trying to get, can I have a job, please? It was more like, hey, I'm a business guy and I want to solve your problems. Response rate was high. Went in for the interviews. They were impressed. They even said, yeah, your portfolio stood out from other people. Why? Because other people would just be like, this is my architecture portfolio. Whereas mine was like Goober Studios. Immediately just stood out. I was like, what is this? It's a brand. Second, they open it. It talks about, you know, all my designs have been problem solving. There's an overall theme of what this portfolio consists of. So it seemed like it was a freelance service. So initially, I came in as a freelancer. And through that, five people, I picked one because I knew this would take up all my time. I can't have more than one client. It's basically like a job was going to take up, nine to five. So I got that one client. I started working with them from end of 2017. Yeah, up until today, I am still working with them, and they're still my number one client. I have expanded a little bit, but they still are how I make majority of my money, and they have been the best. So I've had one client for 3 years, and it's paid for everything, but it's been the best growth progression I've seen because it's almost like I'm able to use their platform to experiment with new ideas, with new approaches, and to actually bring results and to improve my skills as well. So here's the best part is that this took zero startup costs for me, right? All I did was send out emails and make a portfolio. I went for interviews. And then when I finally closed the deal, I was making a monthly income. So again, I wasn't spending anything. Rather, I was using their resources to help them grow. Again, I was selling them money. So they were paying me a monthly fee for my service, which is making the websites, making online content for social media, building their Instagram page, providing them with analytics, how to gather data, how to analyze that data, how to restructure their copywriting to appeal to their target customers. And I started doing Facebook ads for them. And what's crazy is that when I started to see more and more into this industry, I realized that the landscape for the land grab was so huge because there's very little people who are producing content at a marketing scale that I was envisioning. And I know this sounds ambitious to you, but I'm telling you, man, this is the truth. I will dominate this industry because it's not that I'm some genius. It's simply because there's just no competition. And for some reason, I've been able to find markets like this all the time. I'm just realizing this right now as I'm talking to you. My gaming mods, my Dota 2, and now this. It seems I'm able to penetrate. My most successful things is when I penetrate stuff with no competition. Go figure, right? But then it's not easy to do because a lot of the times that I did lose, I entered high competition, and that's not a bad thing. Going to high competitive markets is not bad because it means it's a healthy market where there's demand. However, it's just more competitive. I've just been lucky at finding zero landscape. I mean, zero competition and being able to just gobble up everything. And now that this is going to happen because it's been 3 years, other people are still not producing. Other globally, okay, not just in this country. I'm talking about globally. If we continue, I will make them the top designer in the world, just simply through attention grabbing content and just dominating the online landscape because there's no noise and we're making the most noise.